record. There we go. Recording to the cloud. Hey, good morning, Misfits. It is July 14th, is it? July 15th. It is episode 509. July 15th, episode 509. Conversation today is about storytelling. In our this afternoon at 2 o'clock Eastern, I think today is Wednesday, right? It is Wednesday. We will be having our week 3 secret sauce conversation. It'll be about branding. I think branding is going to be 2 weeks of conversation. There's just so much to it. So to help you get through all of that, but we'll see how it goes. We'll have some conversations. First week was getting a little bit of mindset and who we are. Second week was a little bit about values, and this third week is now putting all of that together. Everything I've been having you work on in the Secret Sauce Academy. We'll be talking about that and doing that this afternoon. Lots of stuff. Another big workbook. Some of you are like, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for all of this stuff. Well, yes, you did. Anyway, so storytelling. Conversation today is about why people buy. And the reason people buy is because they make an emotional connection. And that goes all the way down even to toilet paper. Now, I know we don't think about toilet paper and emotional connection, but I got to tell you, we've all been places, hotels or other places where toilet paper was like, oh my gosh, they use the cheapest stuff. Well, see, that's a story. And everything that you do, everything that you have, kind of like the story we get to now tell with our newest person who gets to the call every time, and that'd be Latoya. She's, today's her first day, and that's the story we get to tell. My point is this: how good are you at storytelling? What is it that you do? How do you move people? It's the reason people buy is the story they tell, right? If you remember sometime in the past, there's 2 parts to a presentation. There's 2 parts to a conversion. There's the information, that's part A, and part B is where they make the decision to take action. So part A is all of your content, information, motivation, inspiration, all of that stuff. Part B is when they put it into action. Some of you have become amazing at part A. But the challenge is that part B, they forgot the story. Your customers have forgot the story at part B. So what do you do to keep the story alive? That's the key. What's the thing you leave them with? What's the idea, the concept, the reason, the why they're going to buy? Now, for some of you, that conversion, the time in between, might be very short. Could be the end of a presentation at a hotel meeting. Others of you, it might be you're working through text, through instant messenger, through videos on social media. How do you leave them with a reason to buy? That's the story. How do you give them a story that makes them say, I want the end of that story to include your service or your product? Well, how long have they seen the story? What story are you telling? That's part of what we're going to be talking about in Secret Sauce Academy today too, is how do you build your brand? What is the brand they're buying? Because it's not your company. It's not. It's the result your company or service or product can provide them. So how do you become better at telling stories? You practice, right? What do they say? Facts tell and stories sell. How good are you at telling a story? And that story may or may not include the prospect. When we ask people to dream, when we ask them to, hey, tell me a little bit more about you. Tell me that thing that's neat about you. You can wind up finding some pretty cool things out about people. So I ask you that because it's important to understand the only reason somebody's going to buy is because they get connected to you. People do business with people what? They know, they like, and they trust. So I say all of that to say, what is it that you do? What is it that you would need to do? What would you like to be able to do better as it relates to storytelling? That's what I want to help you with. So how do you tell a story? What's the story you tell? Do you know your story? If I were to ask each of you, what's your story? If you were to walk up on stage right now at an event and somebody says, "Hey, listen, tell us your story." Can you tell us your story as it relates to your business? A story, every story has three things: a beginning, a middle, and an end. When you're telling your story about your personal company story, product story, there's the before story and the after story. Do you know how to tell that? Is it consistent? Can you repeat your sponsor's story if they're still part of your organization? Hi, everybody. My name's Sean Murphy. I'm a farm boy from Ohio. I grew up selling corn off a hay wagon was my first occupation at 5 years old. I barely made it through high school with a 0.9 grade point average, drove by a lot of colleges, and I got involved in network marketing about 23 years ago. And my first year was $80,000. Wait, let me finish. In debt, because I did it all wrong. Since then, I've been able to create organizations around the globe. I've done pretty well in this industry. I've I stood on stage in 30 plus countries. I've been translated into over 40 languages. All that and 25 cents gets you what? 25 cents. Before I started with my company, I had some challenges sleeping. Now, since I've been using the products, I sleep much better. I get a lot more stuff done. I got more energy. And you know what? I shared it with a few people, and I've been able to create a pretty nice stay-at-home income. See, that's kind of my story. And it's pretty similar when you understand what it is that people are listening for. Nobody needs to know that I've had an organization of over 300,000. Nobody needs to know that there's how much money I make on a monthly basis. They just need to know that it works, because all they can see is what could work for them. They can only see their next story. They can't see my story. They can't see 22 years being in a profession. The last thing they were in 22 years was a job and they got fired. The last thing they were in 20 years was a marriage and it didn't work out so well. So all of these things are triggering memories that may not serve them. So it needs to be a little bit light. It needs to be a little bit general in statements, so that you want somebody to say, well, if he barely made it through high school and he's doing pretty well, I graduated university, I probably could do as good as him, if not better. And my answer to that is, I pray to God that's true. And yes, I don't doubt that whatsoever. But if I were to ask you your story, could you tell me your story? Yeah, but Sean, I need to know the comp plan. That's not as important as your story. Do you know the stories of some people who are on your team? See, I don't know too many people. I know there are some, but I don't know too many people who would buy a book on instructions on how to build, I don't know, a dollhouse. They sell books like that, DIY stuff. But the biggest books that sell are books that are based upon a story, right? And some of them are I can't remember her name now. Where the guy with the flowing hair, Fabio, is always on the cover, right? The female stories where his throbbing chest and blah, 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 and all of that stuff. But those are stories listen, smut novels, right? Or whatever they call them. Those are, but people buy them. Nobody wants to say they buy them. It's like novellas. Nobody wants to say they watch them, but they watch them. So, romantic story. There we go. See, that's the nice way of saying them. Smut novels. What the heck? That's a farm boy conversion. Yes, romantic stories. Yeah, we can see how even that they turn them into that sounds good. That's a good story, a romantic story. He looked at her, and his eyes gazed, and her eyes glazed, and they locked together, and blah blah blah, and all of a sudden, yeah, whatever. So I say all of that. What's your story? See, that's what people ask me all the time when I'm riding on a plane or standing next to a train or whatever. People say, so what do you do? I get paid to tell 7-figure stories. What? How do you do that? Very well. Why do you ask? See, if you want to really know what I do, you're going to have to jump through some hoops. You want to know my story, you're going to have to pay the price of buying the book. And buying the book means you got to get on the inner circle. And the way you get into the inner circle is you figure out a way to compensate me and my family for taking me away from my family. See, that's the price people pay to put me on their stage. Is my message worth 15 grand an hour? I don't know. People pay me for that, but they're paying me to be away from my family. See, when you get that, you'll become very curious about who's taking your time. See, right now, I get calls all the time from CEOs and 6- and 7-figure income earners who are trying to figure out their story because their business is going a little sideways. Most it's going great. But CEOs calling me, how do we motivate people? How do we get people to an event? How do we get people to an online event? How do we change from a physical event to a digital event? Why? Because it's all about the story. When companies are rebranding, they call me and they say, well, how do we change the story? We changed our name from ABC to XYZ. That's all you get paid for, is your ability to tell a story. Now, here's what's different between you and me is that you've got some more avenues to tell your story on. See, for the longest time, I was just Facebook. I had dabbled into Snapchat and a variety of things. And now because of most of you drawing me, pulling me, kicking and screaming into Instagram, I now do some things on Instagram. Here's the other thing. Could you imagine if every time you opened up your book, the book that you bought, say Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, or Wallace D. Wattles' Science of Getting Rich, or Lynn Grabhorn's Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting, or Rhonda Britton's book, Fearless Living, if you opened up any of those books, and every time you opened it up, the words on the pages were different, you'd kind of put the book down, wouldn't you? If you opened up Napoleon Hill and the first chapter wasn't desire, and you told somebody you should read that book, and they opened it up and the first chapter was how to create Apple turnovers, you'd be like, what book are you talking about? Well, Napoleon Hill, the first chapter was how to cook Apple turnovers. What are you talking about? It's supposed to be desire. Well, not in the book I got. See, that's the power of your story. That's the power of your story. Why do you need to be consistent? So that every time somebody asks you to open up your book, they know exactly. You want people to be able to mouth your story. Why? Because it's in that consistency. The audience, how many of you ever recommended a book because it's a good book, and you recommended it because you know when somebody else will read it, they'll get something out of that good book? Some of you have recommended chapters in the Bible. Some of you have recommended books to read. Some of you have recommended movies to read. Why? Because you enjoyed it and you wanted other people to enjoy it. The reason your team wants to introduce people to you is so they can hear your story. Our little pink robe lady, East Texas mama up there, gets asked to tell her story all the time. And one time she didn't tell a particular part of her story, and they stopped the conference and they said, whoa, 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 whoa. You're not getting off the stage until you tell the story about your mama. Oh, well, in her head, I could hear it in her head. Well, the person who wanted me to speak told me that wasn't an important part. That was the only thing they wanted to hear. So I say that to say this. You need to develop your story. See, that's part of your brand. That's the start of your brand. My brand is goofy farm boy from Ohio, who, when you sit down with him and you get past the loud shirt and the goofiness, there's a little bit of brilliance that resides inside of this guy that most people never get to see because he doesn't give it away. But if you sit down and have with him, people have said, and it surprises me, people that I've sat with in meetings of 6 and 7 figure income, you know, like the 7-figure summit with like an Eric Worre, sitting down and at a table, one of the conversations is to say something that you admire about the people that are around the table. And I sat in a room full of these high-powered networkers, and most of them said, to my surprise, he's one of the smartest people I know. And I got to look at I kind of always look at everybody cross-eyed when they say that about me, because it's like, they go, no. You may not be, you may not know how to spell. I didn't say you were smart. I just said, you're one of the smartest people I know on personal development, on human nature. So I say all of that to say, what is it that you're known for? What is your brand? Why do people search you out? What do you want people to search you out for? What is that thing that's inside of you that's waiting, that you do so well? Emerson said, there's something you do so well, people wish they could do it half as well. See, that's part of your story. How do you tell a story? Beginning, middle, and end. Your story should always include where you're from. Why? Because when people hear that you're from Serbia or Croatia or Connecticut or East Texas or Arizona, Sudan, they're like, wow, if she could do it, I could do it. Sudan, how the heck did you get this from Sudan? The biggest reason is that people will think, oh, wow, I know somebody from there. Right? When I talk about you guys, you gals, when I talk about all of you, I reference you on always. Right? I had somebody on the call today from Serbia. I had on the call somebody today from Czechoslovakia. I had somebody on the call today from Kazakhstan. It's pretty neat to be able to say that. I have somebody in Serbia who does yoga there that I'm waiting to get onto the call one day. And I wouldn't doubt that maybe Alex, AJ, might know her or definitely know. I mean, it ain't that big of a country. So I say all of this, your name should, hey, listen, I'm Sean Murphy from Dallas, Texas. Oh, Dallas, Texas. There's somebody in Dallas, Texas. I could use that. So when you tell your story, you should always include where you're from. It shouldn't go into too much detail. How many of you, by type a B in the chat for bored, if you've ever heard somebody tell their personal story and it went on for like 8 minutes? Well, you know, before I got started, my car broke down and my tires got bald, and it's like, wait a minute, what the hell are you talking? What? Your story shouldn't be more than 90 seconds. 90 seconds max. Beginning, middle, and end. Hi, everybody. My name's Sean Murphy. I'm from Dallas, Texas. Listen, before I got started in my business, I was ABC 123 XYZ. You know what's happened since? A dear friend introduced me to it. You should always include that somebody introduced you to it, unless, of course, you searched it out. But how did you find it? That's what most people are looking for, is how do I find it? Because if they're thinking about doing the business, they're going to be asking, well, how do I find people? Well, they forget how they found what they're doing. Yeah, most people's presentations are 4 and 5 minutes. This isn't a training. You're not being asked to train when you're told to give your story. 90 seconds. You want to be invited back? Let me put it this way. You can have a 2-minute, 3-minute story. Nobody remembers the damn thing. You want to be invited back to tell your story again and again? You want to get some recognition? Have a 90-second story. And it be impactful. Beginning, middle, and end. Before you found your business, how you found it, after you found the business. You know, before I found it, I was struggling with L1, 2, 3, XYZ. And then a friend asked me, they said, what are you doing to change whatever? What's the driving factor? What was the motivation that caused you to look into this business, to say, listen, that's something different. Let me take a look at that. Somebody said something somewhere, something triggered in your life somewhere that you said, I've got to make a change. You know what? I looked into it. I did some research, and I found out that, you know, after doing this, this, and this, here's what my results have been since. I found a community of individuals who inspire me on a daily basis. I've done more in personal development than I ever thought possible. And you know what? Every day I'm learning how to do X, Y, and Z better and better. And here's the results I've had. It's pretty much that simple. But I hear people go into stories, especially I'm in the wellness world, and I'll hear people go into stories saying, you know what, well, before, you know, my blood pressure was this and the doctor said that, and this is, what? Tell your story. You're the Cliff Notes. You're not doing a training. Can I tell you this without hurting your feelings? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. They really don't. You're there, you're filling up space. Listen, if you've got a great sounding voice, they're going to ask you. If you look good on screen, they're going to ask you. If you can get the sentences out, they're going to ask you. I'm asking you to build your business. I'm asking you to build your brand. Build your brand. Let people follow you. Let people reach out to you and go, if she could do it, I could do it. You hear me pick on Rhonda like a sister, because we kind of are, brother and sister. But she's had to work on her story. And her first time she did it, it was great. Second time she did it, it wasn't so good, because here's what happens. We do it good, and then we think, well, I got to do it better. Mm-mm. You ask her a story now, the hair's to one side just like it is, and that big old smile comes on. Hey, y'all. My name's Rhonda Bird Parker from East Texas. And she now knows her story. She's got it down. My point is that each of you, the 60 of you that are on here, learn how to tell your dang story. And it should be similar. You can culturalize it. You can customize it. See, when I go down to Latin America, I may tell the story different based upon the audience that's in Costa Rica than when I'm standing in Medellin. Is it all new people? Is it people who have already been there? What's the audience? But it's a slight tweak. If there's more business builders, if we only have three or four guests, which is very rarely the case. Normally there's 100, 200 guests. So do you have your guest version of the beginning? If you're doing a leadership training and it's a Super Saturday and it's all business builders, your story should be around business building. Same story. Hi, everybody. So if I do a business one, hi, everybody. My name is Sean Murphy. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I got started in this profession 22 years ago, selling corn off a hay wagon. Well, that was a little bit earlier. I was 5 at the time. But I got involved in this business 22 years ago because I said there's got to be a better way. I had 7 different businesses, over 100 employees, and I realized keeping them working 40, 50 hours a week to give them the weekend off didn't sit well with me. So 22 years ago, I decided to step into the industry, which I thought was an arm's reach away from purse snatching. But I got to tell you, my first year was $80,000. Wait for it. In debt. Because I did it the network marketing way. I put people on the product. Nobody told me I should sell it. I'm going to tell you, sell your product. What I learned the second year is that I could actually sell the product. And if I delivered value, people would pay for the value. I not only made back my loss of $80,000, but I went on to make a 6-figure income, and it's been doing very well ever since. Same story, just a little different news. Depends upon the audience. For people who are new, for people that are new in the business, tell your story. Is that what you're asking, Daniela? Okay, so tell your story about your life. See, that's the thing here. Great question. I love this question. Here's why. People will tell me all the time, I'm new. I don't have a story. I would ask them, please understand my humor. Did you just crawl out from under a rock? How did you learn English so well in a day? So tell me the story about you being a mom. Tell me the story about you being an immigrant. I've been in the United States for 20 years. I came from Serbia. English is my second language. I learned it in school. But one of the things I enjoyed about that got me started in this business is I looked for a better way. As a mom, I really want to give my son the best things that are available out there. In this current time and place, it's really hard to even find a first job, let alone a second job, to create additional income. So I've partnered with a handful of people who I believe have the success. They've got the proven method that's going to allow me to feel good about being able to take care of my family for the rest of my life. I used the product. In my first 7 days, I experienced a little more energy. I experienced a little more this, that, or the other. And that's your story. I'm 6 months in the business. I was raised with a perfect family. I have no scars to carry. Okay, great. I would love to be able to have you teach me to put a 1-hour story in 3 to 5 minutes. So the key is every one of you have a story. I don't care if this is day 1 for you in network marketing or day 101 or year 102. Every one of you have a story, and your story is your life. See, mine goes back to childhood. Why? Because I sold corn off a hay wagon when I was 5 years old. I literally did. So that gives people this idea of, oh, isn't that cute? 5-year-old. It makes them think of what they were doing at 5 years old. It allows me a way to connect with people. Some of you don't have a good 5-year-old story. And you can say that. Listen, at 5 years old, my life wasn't what I would wish on anybody. And it didn't get better until years later. But what I found is that those rough times in my life allowed me to really start to learn what I needed to do to take care of me. Now, how many of you just heard that and it didn't matter to you that the story I was telling was somebody else's story? Somebody who was raped from the age of 4 to 14 in the morning by their father, in the afternoon by their stepfather. So you don't need to know all of that part. You just need to know that I had a rough childhood. And if you say I had a rough childhood, they can relate to that and say I had a rough childhood too. But if you ever had a chance to compare childhoods, they'd go, mine was nothing compared to yours. But we don't want them to do that just yet. They don't need to know that you were abused or you were dropped off or you were orphaned or you were this, that, or the other. They just need to know the generality so that they can relate to you. And when they can relate to you, they go, well, if she could do it, if he could do it, I could do it. Is this making sense, y'all? Okay. So as you go through it, but then there's always got to be a little ray of sunshine, give people hope, right? Well, that's the whole thing. We got to give hope. You're hope dealers. You had a shit life, I had a shit life. Okay, so now the two of us can get together and we can talk about a whole bunch of bad things. No, let's not leave it there. I barely made it through high school, 0.9 grade point average. People think, okay, so mentally challenged, not the easiest of lives. Entrepreneur. So what's the pain? What's the fix? And as you go through that story, let them know there's hope on the other side. Because if you got hope, they can have hope. I'm just looking at the list here. Trying to think of some folks here. See whose stories I might know. Hi, everybody. My name's Sean Murphy. Listen, when I was growing up, I don't know about you, but I kind of grew up without a dad. Family life was a little bit tough. But what I did find is that I found out later on once I became a little bit more versed in the world, how absolutely powerful my mom was and how absolutely influential she's been in my life and still is today. I got involved in this industry because I learned what it means to have dedication. I learned what it means to be to the need to take care of yourself. Before I found the company, I was working 20, 30 hours a day. And I figured, and I said, there's got to be a way to learn how to put some leverage to work for me instead of against me. And I found a dear friend of mine introduced me to an opportunity that allowed me to, if I could spend some time, a couple hours a week, some people spend an hour a day on it, but if I could learn some of the way that currencies get leveraged and the arbitrage and the way that you can make money off the exchange of currency. I never thought that was possible for somebody like me, but technology now allows me to do that. And so from the comfort of my home in between dance lessons, I get to leverage some technology on currency that exchanges and travels around the world. It's allowed me a little bit of additional income that as I continue to share and tell the story is going to give me more and more freedom each and every day. Learn how to tell your story. Your story, listen to me, your story is worth 7 figures. It is. It absolutely is. The challenge is that you're not letting people, yeah, I wonder whose story that was. You're not letting people open the book. You're not letting people open the book. You're telling a story that's not even yours. You're telling a story about a company. You're not the company. You're telling a story about a comp plan. You're not the comp plan. You're telling a story about I don't know, ingredients. You're telling a story about your upline. You're telling a story about, I promise you, when people listen, they don't need to know the whole story, right? Why buy the cow when the milk is free? You don't need to go that far. Just tell your story. Listen, there's a couple of you on here who have just the most beautiful curly hair on the face of the planet. Julia's one, Jessica's one. When your hair is like poof, it's like, oh my God, it is amazing. Katrina, where is she at? She's another one. Katerine, it's unbelievable. So here's some of the things you might say. Listen, I know a lot of you, I get compliments all the time on my hair, but I got to tell you, one of the things that folks like us who have hair like this, we wish sometimes it was just straight. How many of you wish you could have hair like mine? And most people will put their hair up. Well, I wish I could have hair like yours. Well, what I found is that I saw a lot of people around me who were having time freedom, and I wished I could have time freedom like theirs. And they wish they could have the freedom that I have as a model, as a instructor, as a coach. And so I said, well, if I could teach you how to have some of my freedom, could you teach me how to have some of yours? And a friend told me about an opportunity. And now what I'm learning is the ability to kind of straighten out my path towards income through leveraging technology in a platform base that allows me to leverage my time and take a little bit of the profit of the exchange of currency that travels around the globe. I don't know. I'm not in y'all's business. I'm just seeing how your story can be told based upon who you are, not based upon your success. Because most people, if you're getting asked how much money do you make, it's because your story isn't so good. Your story's not worth it. Your story doesn't promote the 7 figures that you're worth. I used to get asked in the beginning, how much money do I make? I don't get asked that anymore. People actually post how much they think I make. And that's just part of the story. Does this help? What questions might you have as it relates to story? By the way, welcome everybody. Send out your 3 messages. Send out your 3 little stories of joy and gratitude to those around you. I'd love for you to be able to send those messages out. What messages would you like to send out to folks? Hey, good morning, Latoya. What's your question?
Good morning, Sean. How are you doing?
Outstanding, my love.
Good. I have a question as far as story.
Yep.
I never really had it. I don't have an issue sharing my story. I think like in the beginning, like years ago, when I first was introduced to network marketing, I was kind of shy, right? Because I think what it is, we had the old paradigm, like maybe some people like, you don't want everybody all up in your business, or you don't want to tell too much, or people might look at you different. Sometimes I think that's why people don't tell their story,
Yep.
is because it's that old paradigm. But when you start thinking that my story could impact somebody's life on this call, whether it's just one person, then you be more at ease that when you tell your story, you're not embarrassed. Like, damn, some people, when people share like they didn't finish school and stuff like that, and I used to look at that, but it's impactful. Some people look at it like, damn, he ain't finished school. Gosh, he must be what the heck? But on the other side of the fence, it's impactful, because they have an intention of why they're sharing their story.
Yep.
Now, for my question for you is that I know you've been in network marketing for quite some time, right?
Yes.
Is there a certain point where you had changed? Well, you kept it the same, but more is like, I guess when people been in network marketing for over like a certain period of time, it changes. Like, okay, they share a bit of where they came from.
What changes for most people is is they start promoting their success. They started to read their own press, and that's when their audiences leave.
Oh, okay.
They start promoting their own. They start reading their own press and talking about their cars and the bikinis and the Lamborghinis, and all of a sudden, their audience starts to leave.
Okay.
And then they really do a shift on their story because their audience is leaving, and they think they got to change the story, and they never go back to the original. Listen, you'll either be humbled or be humble. I'd rather be humble, because when you get humbled, you'll go back to your old story. This new humbling will be part of the new story. The challenge is that if you listen to the leaders who have weathered the storms, their stories are pretty much the same as they were day one. Now, the challenge is that in the beginning, we all go through that phase, I'm new to this industry. And we figure we have to create an income story for people to listen to us, because we haven't really, remember this, every one of us, most of us haven't been through personal undevelopment to know that our story that got us here is the story that's going to get anybody else here.
Wow.
So, yeah, when my story hasn't changed from day one. I'm a farm boy from Ohio, 0.9 grade point average, drove by a lot of high school. The only thing I get to add now is I've stood on stage for credibility. I've stood on stage in 30 countries, been translated into over 40 languages. Depending upon the audience, I'm a 3-time #1 Amazon bestseller. Mm-hmm. These are stories I get to add for credibility. But that doesn't mean I don't start there because, oh, well, I got to go write a book and be a #1 bestseller before I can do this business. I'm a farm boy from Ohio with a 0.9 grade point average, sold corn off a hay wagon when I was 5 years old. That will always be part of my story, because that's the foundation. Everybody goes, well, shit, if he started like that, I guess. And now he's got 3 #1 best-selling Amazon books. He's got this, he's got that, he's got this, but he started off there. I'm starting off a little better than he is. I got to have more than he does. The answer to that is true.
Gotcha.
But when you start to hear, LaToya, especially, and I'm going to say this in your particular market segment, mm-hmm. right, where it's a lot about the money because of the age of the people who are telling the story, it's a lot about the money. That story will change based upon they're married or divorced, they lost their girlfriend, their mistress came out on stage, or whatever it is, and all of the challenges that happen, that all of a sudden the story changes.
Okay.
Right? You've seen that. You know exactly what I'm talking about, having been around the block.
Yes.
Right? And the one thing is there's another gentleman that you probably know, was in Noni. People would come up and they would have his script down and they'd say, he has 100% of the information. I'm like, who the hell has 100% of the information? but that was his intro. He has 100% of the information you'll need tonight. I'm like, wow. Okay. And then when all of his team left, he didn't have 100% of the information.
Right. Because I used to hear that years ago, especially through the edification, and you could tell what kind of relationship a person has with the leader is through the edification. And I know the difference. They will tell a story of how they met the person and how they had an influence on their life in a minute, and then you can tell something like they get straight to the chase, right? They kind of like, they know a ton of information. They love helping people, yada, 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 yada. But then the ones who tell the story, you can tell what kind of relationship they have with the leader. So it pretty much just warms it up. So I used to be kind of shy of sharing my story till one day someone had asked me my why. Why you doing this? They want to hear from me because when I said why I'm doing this, I said it was to create a private family banking system for my family. And this one girl looked, she was like, what? Because she never heard of that. And she came to me and said, like, hey, a friend of mine said she don't have no time to do this. And then it clicked in to share that I once did this working 70 hours a week, Sunday through Saturday. I invested 15, 30 minutes a day, discipline on it. And she was like, her mouth dropped. She was like, oh my gosh, you need to share that more. Because a lot of people think with trading, you need to be, or any business that you need to be doing it boom, boom, boom. Even with a job, you had to put these certain amount of hours in. I said, yeah, but at that time, I worked 12 to 14 hour days, Sunday through Saturday. So my time was pretty tight at the time. And I only did it 15, 30 minutes a day, just watching videos and applying the information, being on calls, whether I was at work or not. And I just had to make a solid decision. And she was like, oh my God, you need to share that more. And I'm like, and I thought about like, yeah, because it was impacting. It gave myself an aha moment, like, oh my gosh, yeah, wow. So yep. I can share it at ease because I know it's impactful. Some people be like, damn, I know she fell asleep many times. I'm like, yeah, even if I did, I even made myself learn even more, and apply even more. So thank you, Sean, for bringing this up because I strongly do believe that stories does have a bit of an influence on the audience, has a lot of influence on the audience. And one more thing I just want to share also, one more thing. When I was invited to speak at it was a pro networking event. It was probably about 5 years ago. And for people, it was the first time sharing their story. And they went through a segment of like a month. It was a month segment of shaping up this story. I think we had like 30 minutes at the time because we couldn't share like our business, but we could share our story, why we chose network marketing or yada, yada, yada.
Right.
So, and they helped you structure, like you said, from beginning, middle to the end. Like what was the aha moment? What was it? What was that? To keep the audience engaged. So stories, it does play a huge part.
Yeah, absolutely. You think you think of Jim Rohn and you just know all about the stories he tells, right? So
yes.
Wow. Julia asked, how do you include your why in your story? So, you can just say it. Your why should be simple, and it should be something that's important. My why is to put more smiles in the world so they show up for my family. My mission, my biggest why is to be a better dad, better husband every day. And I do that by asking my family each week on a scale of 1 to 10, how am I as a husband and how am I as a dad each week? So I'm here today to see how I can help put a smile on your face, help you get more information, and hopefully you share a smile with people around the world, because I'm sure many of you, the 66 of you that are on here right now, shared a smile last week that's made its way across the pond and has showed up in my family's life. So that's how you incorporate a why into your story, Julia, so that you can have a conversation with folks and they know why you're standing up there in front of the room. What's your vision? And it doesn't have to be, quote, business related, because now that's a business marketing strategy versus your personal why. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an answer.
Thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you, Latoya. Great to have you here.
Take care.
Can I just react to what Latoya said? Because I have a question about that, Sean.
Sure.
Thank you, Latoya, for sharing that. And I wanted to ask, because I think we're in the same company, and in the same profession, like trading. But like, and I said it in the chat as well. Like, I sometimes like get annoyed because there's like so many bullshit stories about Lamborghinis and cruises and all that bullshit. And that's what I kind of dislike about the industry. That it focuses on the money more. And for me, it's really like what I get attracted to is, and what I get drawn to is certain leaders. And for me, it's more about the heart and, authenticity and really changing people's lives and impact. But it's like the masses get drawn to money and showing like, oh, look, trading, you become a millionaire and blah, 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 which is bullshit, of course, but that's what most people want to hear. And it's like, when you keep it real and you're like, being honest about why you want to do it and you want to help people, you're like the idiot in the industry,
Well,
like,
not necessarily, but so what's your question, my love?
How do you deal with staying authentic? How do you stay authentic in the midst of so many? I'm not saying it's fake, I know there's a lot of money in the industry, but
so you just have to tell your story. So you can acknowledge the other stories, right? Because everybody wants to know that, and if that's what's drawing the eyeballs, why not leverage it? But it's not. It's the teaser that gets people to listen to you. There's a lot of people who are my business partners who work in the industry that I'm in, who have their yachts and their trips and their helicopter flights and their Lamborghinis and their cars I can't even spell or wouldn't know how to drive if I got in one. But let me tell you my story. And then you tell your story. So you're not negating any of those other things. You don't need to be against them. You don't need to be for them. But you can use them in such a way that it allows you to at least get their attention so they can get past the first sentence so they can listen to your story. Because if you potentially say, you know what, I'm not all about that, they're like, well, shit, that's what I'm here for. So you don't have to be all about that. And you say, you know what, there's so many people who have created income. The great news is to know that if you wanted the yachts or the helicopters or the cars or the Lamborghinis or the bikinis, you can definitely do that with this business. Here's why I'm here. Oh, okay. Okay. So I can do all of that, but let me understand you a little more, and you get to tell your story. Listen, you'll never see me sitting on a Lamborghini. I probably couldn't get up off of it if I got onto it. I don't know. And I don't have any really tight black leather pants that I could put on. At least not yet. or a tank top that's got big holes cut out of it or something. But that's not me. That's not my audience.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that people get to do that, but it's just,
But again, you let them do that, right? Those are the other books in the library.
Yes, because people join based on, oh, we're going to be a millionaire in a couple of months.
Totally get it. And those people get hurt, and it creates a good name or a bad name for the industry. I get it. Totally get it. So how do you give those people more hope? That's all. How do you give people the chance to hear the rest of the story? Because here's what I will say, Julia, I love you. That energy that flows through you about all of that other negative stuff comes across when you say your positive stuff. You're against thatness, right? So I would just say, listen, that's them. That's good. Listen, awesome. And let them be who they are. And just decide that you're going to share your story in a way that serves you. You know what? I love how many people who have never been on a boat get on a boat, who have never been in a fancy car, heard a car go vroom vroom. You know, those things, they're they're not the thing that turned my crank. Here's what turns my crank. And just, yeah, they're listen, you're talking about the trading industry. You want to talk about the wellness industry? How much BS goes on in the wellness industry? Oh my gosh, it's worse, because it's about humanity, it's about parents, it's about taking care of people, it's about saying they had a disease that they no longer have, and it's all of this stuff. At least with money, you can say, okay, they had it and they don't have it. But there's so much BS that goes on in the wellness industry, it's crazy. So I love you. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a great question. Let's go to Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy. Oh, I missed Delia. I'm going to Delia next. Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to tell you guys my story. I've never told it in a group setting. I don't know if I can do it in under 90 seconds, but I'll try.
So here's what I would suggest before you do that. Is there going to be any product any product story in it?
No.
Okay, good. So what's your story?
Well, my story is about a boy at a young age who starts, hiding all of his emotions. And in doing so, this is where all of my fear, anxiety, doubt came from. So at 1 year old, my parents migrated from Russia. They were, Jews, so they escaped the persecution there. They didn't speak any English. They had no money. Came over here, thankfully, through Charity, the Jewish organization, with their help. And anyways, 4 years old, I went to school, didn't speak any of the English. And I remember my first negative experience was actually on a bus ride home, 4.5 years old, from kindergarten. And a young girl older than me started making fun of me, right? Because I had like curly hair. I didn't quite dress American because, again, a lot of our stuff was passed down. And I didn't speak English, so I had an accent. I looked funny. I had big ears, curly hair. So that was my first negative experience. And I remember that. And that's where we start planting these vines of doubt, of judgment, of thinking that we're less than perfect. So along the way, let's jump through all the way through middle school, high school, all that. I did have good friends and I was good at sports. So thankfully that pushed me through. But still, along the way, there's, kids that bully you. There's kids that make fun of you. And we all go through this. We all, look different than other people. And kids always make fun of us. And that's just, and we hide our emotions. So all this tar is inside of me going forward, right? And then college came. And that's when I really felt alone. I mean, I didn't have my friends there. I had a couple roommates that, we got into, doing some other stuff like drinking, partying. And one of my roommates was kind of a bully to me because he was bigger than me. And he would pretend he would say he's my older brother, acting like my older brother. But he basically bullied me for the entire year. And literally, I was in huge depression and wanted to kill myself that year. That was tough. But again, all this tar, all this darkness, hiding all these emotions, you still got to do it because you got to act tough as a guy. You got to have an ego. You got to, so anyways, leave Ohio State and, started working, met my ex-wife at 25, got married, still continued to hide all of my emotions through, drugs and alcohol and partying and just not able to share any of my emotions. Then my dad passed away, didn't shed a tear. That was at 30. Thankfully, I had my son 9 years ago. He'll be 9 in a week. And that kind of, that anchored me down a little bit. I kind of put, aside all the other nonsense I was doing, but I still had all my emotions and never talked to anybody about any of this to anyone. And I was living in fear and anxiety. I was thinking about, always going back to the old stories and thinking what's around the corner, what's a year from now, what's 2 years from now, not living in the now. And, I was pretty much miserable and that ruined my marriage. Then at 35, I was 30 pounds overweight and not in a good spot. And I was like, look, I gotta figure this out. So I fixed my nutrition. We started there, right? I fixed my nutrition. I ended up losing like 30 pounds, and since then never gained any of the weight back. I was doing better. I was healing, still not releasing any of my emotions though. So I was still covered in fear and anxiety. I kind of put the drugs to the side, but I was still kind of drinking once in a while, maybe once a month. And then let's go to 9 months from now where everything changed. So 9 months from now, or 9 months ago, it's not that I didn't plan on not drinking. It's just what happened was I started a 30-day meditation. I got a sauna and I started a 30-day meditation, and then I started to really connect with the higher power. And I started to cry out all my emotions. I started to talk to, family, some friends about some stuff in my past, and I got this black tar off, and this weight off my shoulder just got released. And I just continued on this path for 9 months of doing these meditations, personal development. Obviously my nutrition was still there. Jumped on Sean's calls for this. It's been about 3 months ago. And since then, I've just been practicing like every day, stacking action steps, whether it's a live video or talking to you guys about this. These are all action steps to grow our inner ranking. It gets out all this tar that we have inside of us so we can live in the now, so we can be in awareness, and so we can create our future. So this is my story, that anyone can do this. We don't have to live in anxiety and fear. We don't have to be scared. We don't have to look in the future, because the future doesn't even exist. We create the future now, today, in talking and what we're doing and what we're saying. So I know that was a little bit over 90 seconds, but that's the first time I shared it in a group. And
Cool. How long do you think it was?
I don't know, 2.5 minutes?
5.5 minutes.
5, okay.
So can I give you the 90-second version that's just as impactful?
Yes.
Cool. So let me stop this and let me reset. Is it say the last name?
Torchinsky.
Okay. And you're from where in Ohio?
I live in Aurora. It's a suburb of Cleveland.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jeremy Torchinsky. I'm in Aurora, Ohio. Listen, how many of you feel that 9 months would be too long to change your life? How many of you feel that 9 months could change your life? If the next 9 months could do it, would you pay attention? Listen, I came over as an immigrant, 4 years old. I can remember back to being made fun of on a school bus because I didn't dress right and I didn't sound right. And I had big ears and curly hair. And that bullying didn't go away all the way through college. And I was one of those kids that, when you get stressed, I used to eat my stress, and it was chocolate-covered cherries and chocolate chip cookies and junk food. I don't know, it might have been a different food, but the point is that I was 30 pounds heavier than I am now. 9 years ago, I was given a blessing. I was given my son. See, I'm divorced. Wasn't sure if I was a good dad, but 9 years later, I can tell you I'm a good dad. I've got my son. 9 months ago, I made a decision to get healthier, and a 30-day meditation changed everything about my life. And in 9 months, I stand here before you as somebody who's healthier, somebody who's more sure about their world, somebody who no longer carries around all of the pain that I grew up with from bullying and being made fun of and being an immigrant and English my second language and all of those things. I don't know what the challenges are that you carry, but I can tell you this. 9 months can change your life. If you get to work with me and I get to work with you, maybe we can give you some successes and dreams come true for you in the next 9 months. You want to get started?
I love it.
So cut out little bits of the guy who's older than you, the big bully, right? And in college, all of those points are extraordinarily important. Extraordinarily important. Not when you open the book.
Sean, check how long it took you.
How long?
I didn't check. I was wondering you checked.
Oh, that was probably closer to a minute, 2 minutes. Yeah.
Close to 2 minutes, right?
Yeah. So
Thanks.
you gotta love Kayla. I love Kayla. But that's what we do. So take your story, listen, say your story out just like that. And look at which points are not valuable to the story. Ohio State, unless you're talking to somebody from Michigan, they don't care. There's no real reason to talk about Ohio State.
Nope, no reason whatsoever.
There's
Well,
the guy.
I did throw that in there for Rob. I knew he was on.
Right? A Buckeye, one nut that makes a Wolverine madder than hell.
OH, baby.
So little things like that. So again, if you got sports people around, you say, listen, I'm from probably the best college that ever existed, Ohio State, and you'll get some rivalry, you'll get some conversation. But those are things that you can culturalize it, right? So if he's in Ohio State's probably not a big thing other than, listen, I graduated from OSU. But if he's outside of Ohio, you can talk a little bit more about that because it's a rivalry, right? Here in Texas, talk about Oklahoma. Yeah. OU or whatever it is. I have no idea about sports. But my point is that these are little stories. But tell the story. So dad, single dad. Are you married now, Jeremy? No. So single dad, 9 months made a difference in his life. That's all people want to know is how long did it take you to get good? How long did it take you to get healthy? 9 months. When you were 4 on a bus and the girl kicked you in the crotch, we really don't care. Oh, great. You got kicked. I got kicked. It's important. It sets the stage. But it's not the decision they're going to make. Oh, let's see. It's time to make a decision to buy. What was that story when he was 4 and he was Jewish? His parents were this and the. Nobody listen. My mom came over. He couldn't speak English. 1919 is when they came over. The last Exodus. My mom was born here. My dad was first generation Irish and Russian. When I was talking to seniors, when I was doing estate planning, I would talk about Russian and Irish, and I'd say, listen, don't ask me about the arguments in that house, because they were all of that generation where arguments happened behind the closed doors, and they would all laugh. But they didn't care about the rest of me growing up on a farm at 5 years old selling corn off a hay wagon, because I was old enough to be their kid. They wanted to know, what did I do for my parents, or what was my parents' story? But good job. Thank you for sharing that. That took a lot of guts to do that. Y'all throw up some hearts for Jeremy for saying that in front of 63 people who are his peers. Right? You could hear
Love you all.
You could hear a little bit of the hesitation in his conversation as he was doing it for the first time. Great job. Good morning, Delia. How can we be of service to Delia today?
Good morning, Sean.
Good morning.
Delia, Miami, Florida, would like to share her story in 90 seconds.
Okay.
Ready?
Go.
How many of you are there parents or students or just people out of college? How many of you have read The Tale, The Girl in the Vinegar Bottle? Well, if you have, when you hear my 90-second story, you will see how I ended up at 50 on a divorce, bored of my career as a teacher, flying to Puerto Rico, San Juan, at El Conquistador to learn a new way of life, which has brought me a new philosophy on how to enjoy what I do, whether I am networking or just going about my life. I learned in that Puerto Rico summit how I can live in hope, love, and possibility. And that inspires me to build a center of my dreams, teaching others the same thing. I want to inspire the world that the future is attainable if we can imagine it. And that gives me hope. And I can just remember my laughter in Puerto Rico as I listened to Andy Andrews, almost falling off my chair, which I hadn't laughed in years. So Focus, imagine it, focus, and take action.
So that's a good story. I don't know that that's your story.
It is.
Nope. Nope. That's like lace on a dining room table. It looks pretty, but it does. Everybody takes it off before we actually eat the dinner because it doesn't serve. Nobody wants to get it dirty. That's
Okay, so the
great
reason why
story.
to networking. All right, here I am at 50, divorced with a mortgage. Someone calls me up and says, "Do you want to make $1 million?" Ha ha ha! No way. Week later, they call me back. "Do you want to make $1 million?" No way. So I am in Match.com at 50, trying to find a new husband. When I meet James, and he says that he's making all this money, and I said, "Really? Are you a drug dealer?" He goes, "No, I'm going to go meet you in Miami in June 3rd of 2005. I'm going with my parents."
So hold it right there, Dale. You're going to keep telling that story, but I want to see by audience conversation, how many of you would rather hear the first story, or do you want to hear the rest of this story? So type a 1 if you want to hear the first story again, or type a 2 if you want to hear the rest of this story. Yeah, the first story really didn't have anybody excited, Delia.
Okay, so
here's how you would start the second story. 50 years old, Match.com. How many of you can relate? Most of you can't. I was looking for the love of my life. I was letting technology guide me that way.
okay.
What I found was, and then you fill in the blank. Did
Okay.
you find a match?
No.
Doesn't matter about the $1 million, doesn't matter about the mortgage, doesn't matter about this. You can say that, but we're going to narrow it down, because what happens is when we go to tell our story, we tell the highlights that we think are important, but I don't know those highlights. I don't know James, and the $1 million will turn most people off, like it did you for 3 times. Right? They called me up and they said, "You want to make a bunch of money?" I would say a bunch of money. And I said no. And they called me 3 times. And I've eventually said yes. And then, so we can work on that story. But you see how everybody wanted to hear, "I'm 50 with a mortgage on Match.com." Okay, you got my attention. I will pay attention to what you say now, versus "I got on a plane and I went to El Conquistador and I fell off my chair laughing." All true. All true. But really, that's about as sexy as a potato sandwich. Y'all see how we have our story inside of us? Y'all see how there's that thing that we like, nobody really wants to. No, listen, we gotta use what Julia says, get through the BS and just tell the story. I'm 50 years old on Match.com, and somebody keeps calling me 3 times saying, "You want to make a bunch of money?" And I'm like, and I got a mortgage and I got to make some money. Life was pretty tough for me. I got frustrated as a teacher. I loved it. And then we can finish the rest of the story. But that opening line, listen, you could do a post. "I was 50 on Match.com. If you want to know the rest of the story, private message me. But it just does just that. There's going to be women out there that are going on to Match.com right now going, "Okay, what did she do?" I was at 50, Match.com with a mortgage, and life turned out pretty good. If you want to know the rest of the story, message me.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Delia. Thank you. Moshe! Where's Moshe at? There's Moshe. Hey, Moshe. Where's
Hey,
Yada?
Sean.
Yada. I saw Yada. I saw her taking notes like crazy before. Where is she? I saw her earlier. Go ahead,
Think,
Moshe.
is
Hey,
my
before-
connection?
Before you get started, yeah, I hear you. Before you get started, has anybody fallen in love with Corinne's picture? If you haven't seen Corinne's picture, go take a look at that new picture of hers.
She's glowing. She's
Oh
absolutely
my
glowing.
God, I love her. Go ahead, Moshe. Oh, Moshe's connection is a little sketchy.
No la veo.
Okay, Moshe, we'll come back to you, brother. Bezzy. Where's my Bezzy? I said it right. Did I say it right? Tell me I said it right.
Yes, you did. Hi, Sean. Good
Hi,
morning, everyone. So, um, well, I'm gonna tell you guys my story, right? So my story, oh my gosh, they wanna cut grass now while I'm trying to talk. Okay, so let me move away from the window. Okay, so a little bit about my story,
Sure,
right?
you'll come to me after.
Oh, okay. Let me retract my mind because it's going everywhere. Okay. So, I didn't realize this, but when I was younger, I was brought up as an entrepreneur, right? And it's crazy to say it's because I didn't know it until now, right? I was growing up as a person that would wake up with my dad and go to work with him because he used to have his own furniture shop. And let me turn on my camera, even though I look crazy. It's okay. But and he used to have his own furniture shop, and I used to get up every morning, and it used to excite me. Like, well, it still excites me, but I used to wake up and go to work with him and have that um entrepreneur, like, if that customer is going to come or whatever the case was. And I didn't know it until now. And I felt like I had to, I don't know, my mind's like everywhere. I don't know how I'm trying to talk about this, but
Okay, so let me help you because you're already at 1:10 and we haven't gotten past you getting out of the car with dad as an entrepreneur.
right.
So tell me. So high school, how'd you do in school?
I was good. I was okay.
So C student.
I had in the beginning I had like A's and B's, and then through high school it was like C's, B's, and A's.
Okay, so you found boys. Okay, good. So how'd you do? Did you go to university?
Yeah, I'm still in college right now.
Okay. What would be a word you would use to describe yourself?
No clue.
Okay. So I'd figure that out. What would be a word you would think your friends would use to describe you?
Perky? I don't know.
Okay. And so say your last name.
Amara,
Amara. And where are you from?
Ethiopia,
Ethiopia. Where you live now?
Virginia.
And did you come here? Were you born here or did you emigrate here? Did your parents bring you here?
Parents brought me here.
Okay. So, and when you were 4 years old, where were you? In Ethiopia or here with your dad as the entrepreneur?
I actually came here when I was 3, so 4
Okay.
here.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Bezzy Amore. I'm from, where are you from? Where do you live?
Ethiopia.
No, but I mean here. Where do you live now?
Oh, Virginia.
Virginia. Living here in Virginia, but originally from Ethiopia. How many of you know somebody from Ethiopia? Most people won't raise their hand,
Oh.
right? They won't. They just won't. Everybody knows about Ethiopia, but nobody knows it. So you already stand out from that. See, that wasn't part of your story because you're like, I already know that. So my parents immigrated here. I was 3. I said, I'm done with Ethiopia. And I said, let's go. And my parents followed me. And you know what happened is at the age of 4, my dad came here and he needed to find a job. And he became the entrepreneur that everybody talks about. We hear about the streets of the U.S. are paved with gold. You just got to dig for it. Well, my dad dug for it. I remember 4 years old riding around in the truck with him, selling furniture, moving furniture. And he taught me the skills of being a good person and being of good service to people. That's how I was raised. I went through school. I was your average kid through school. I'm in university. My friends would call me perky. I would say I'm fun. I'm enjoyable. And what the reason that I found the business that I'm in is because my dad taught me that if you spend a little time building you and helping others build themselves, I now can build a global business from my home here in Virginia. And at some point, I can make sure that my family and my heritage from Ethiopia lives strong and has a great future.
I love that. Where's the recording?
It'll be on YouTube. But the point is that you're the only, listen, if there's anybody else on here from Ethiopia, please raise your hand. See, I don't think there is. You're this unique, you're this needle in a haystack. Because instantly your accent doesn't, I don't know what an Ethiopian accent sounds like, but you're it, since you're the only one I know from Ethiopia. But you fall into a category that people lump you into a culture, African American, or maybe, well, you're a little lighter skinned, but maybe you're from Europe because you don't have a strong Southern accent. So maybe you're not from down south, but you don't have a Northern accent. So I'm not sure where you're from. Maybe you're from Europe, and everybody's trying to figure out where you're from until you tell them, I'm from Ethiopia. What the hell? I've never met an Ethiopian. Right? So you have that to stand out with.
Thank
Because
you.
here's how everybody's going to remember you. You know, the girl from Ethiopia. Oh yeah, I remember her. What's her name? I don't know. Like, it's something like a B, right? So, but they will remember
Right.
Ethiopia
Yeah.
because nobody should be alive from Ethiopia based upon what we hear in the famine and everything else, right? How does anybody survive Ethiopia? That's the only thing we've ever heard, right? It's the only thing I've ever heard, that there's famine and there's struggle and there's everything, you know.
Yeah.
So, my dear, that you don't have to leverage it, but boy, that's like carrying around a 600-pound sledgehammer when you say that, because nobody else has it.
I'm definitely gonna leverage it.
Yeah, you should. Listen, otherwise you're working too hard.
Right. We don't want to work hard. We want to work
No.
smart.
Yes, and when you say you're from Ethiopia, everybody's like, I've never met an Ethiopian.
Yeah.
You right? You're kind of like an Egyptian. I've never met an Egyptian. I've met people from
I have
Egypt, but
not
I've never.
either. That would be pretty cool though.
Right? So.
Yeah. I want to say one more thing. I
Okay.
think I told you guys in the my second call with you guys, but it was so hard for me to tell people that I stopped my biology major, journey, right?
Mhm.
And it was because on my latest YouTube, I actually put it up, but I said, I'm a business major and a minor in psychology. So I actually said it now. I said it, I put it out there. But before, it was so hard for me to say it is because it was like a plan B, how about if this does not work? I don't want to be a liar in that, I don't know. But it's like, how about if this journey does not work? I'll have that like as a plan B. But I had to realize it's like, I know I want to do this. I know I could do it. Because at the end of the day, whatever you put your mind to, you're able to do. And I had that whole thing this weekend when that's a long story. But but it's when you put your mind to it, you could do it. So I was just like, you know what? It's time for me to just say it. It's time for me just to let it out, because once I let it out, it was just like a big relief. It was just like, it is what it is. Like, and that's not what I want to do anyways. It was just
Right.
something that, produced income for my future. But who wants to come out with $400K student loans and not really have a passion for it, So I just wanted to say that.
Absolutely. Awesome. Congratulations.
Gracias.
You're welcome. Leo, let's go to Leo. Get a little bit of super sexy in the office here.
Hey everybody, how are you?
Good, Leo.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I just finished making breakfast for my lovely lady and myself, so
Oh,
about to
sure.
enjoy that.
Yeah. Watch everybody just go. "Oh."
But yeah, I just want to say good morning, good morning, good morning. Sean, I have a question. What are some of the, I guess, parameters, or what are some of your bullet points, if there are, that you look to hit in a story? Like how you construct it through the introduction, the body of it, and then how you close your story to connect it to what
So,
you're.
what's your foundation? Right? Yours. I
Um,
told your story earlier, right?
yeah,
Grew up without my father.
yeah,
Right. Most people who were that, most women will instantly relate to that because even if their father was there, that he wasn't there. Right. So just a bullet point. Grew up without a dad. Grew up with a very, very strong mom. And that's it. Leave that there. Let everybody tell their own story in their head, because at 14,000 words a minute, they're telling their story in their head. They're relating to you. The brain looks for two things. Will it kill me, or how fast can I recognize a pattern? The more you give them patterns, the more they have to identify how they correlate to your pattern. So the bigger your pattern is, the easier it is for them to flow into it. Does that make sense?
yes, yes, sir.
Right? Farm boy from Ohio. Everybody can go, I knew a farm boy. I grew up on a farm. I smelled cow poop one time. I gotcha. Right? I didn't go into whether it's dairy cattle, whether it's beef cattle, whether it's Jersey or Guernsey or Simmental or Black Angus. Nobody cares. Grew up without a dad. Very strong mom. Right? Got picked on at 11 because my mom put me into dance. I would have been easier playing the flute, for God's sake. But no, mom put me into dance. I could have been in the band. No, 12-year-old Puerto Rican kid dancing. Tell me I did. Listen, I got good at fighting.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So little humor. Fast forward. Right? How long have you owned the dance studio?
Oh, the dance studio since 2000, late 2015.
Okay. So ever any run-in with the law?
Yes, once, but
No detail, but
yep,
so,
once.
so listen, I'm a successful entrepreneur right now, but I've had run-ins with the law. I've had some bad moments in my life. I've had some challenges with my relationships. I stand here before you now in the most amazing relationship. 2015, started my own dance studio. And one of the things I learned as an entrepreneur is multiple streams of income. And as a business owner, which most people don't get prospected because they think we're all doing fine, listen, we're out of time. I could spend 24 hours a day in my dance studio and still not be where I want to be. Somebody came to me 2 years ago, year ago, and said, hey, what are you doing to leverage technology? And since COVID, right, you get to add that in. That's the new thing that, like Latoya was at, since COVID, my dance studio isn't quite as busy as it used to be. I'm doing dance studios online. And so 2 years ago or 3 years ago, however long you've been involved with the trading, I got involved in a technology online business that's really allowed me some flexibility with the changes that's happened in the world. So I now get to not only do my dance studio from home online, I get to build a global business online as well.
That was amazing.
So there you go. But those are parameters.
Awesome.
The beginning, the middle, and now the end is, where were you before this? You got to let people know you're an entrepreneur. You took the risk. You understand business. At least that's their perception. Right. We see a lot of people who start businesses and they go out right away. but you're a business owner. Most people wouldn't prospect you because they think you're good, right?
Right.
That gives everybody a chance who's listening going, well, wait a minute. If he's a business owner and he's struggling for time, you know how many people I know who are struggling for time right now? You know, maybe I'll go ask them. Listen, it's never about your story. It's about giving your prospect the chance to go, oh, well, if that's what he's feeling, I know 100 people like that who are feeling like that right now.
Wow. I love the way that you just made it so concise and it flowed so well from childhood to teens and into my adulthood. That was amazing.
Well, I've done it once or twice.
It's like 33,000 times.
You know, and some of the something that hit me while somebody was talking about multiple streams of income. I'm all for it. Right now, I have over 35,000 multiple streams of income. I just get paid $2 at a clip. So how many people can you have in a dance studio at one time?
The most would probably be about, how many do we have at that workshop? I think we had like 50 people, like 40, 50 people in a class.
So you know what I love? I get to have 40, 50 people show up at a class one time, and they show up for how long? An hour?
Hour and a half to 2 hours.
Hour and a half to 2 hours. So say I got 40, 50 people for 2 hours. That's 200 hours worth of income I can generate as a business owner, right? Well, let's just call it what it is. What I realized is that there's ways out there through technology. I can generate 400 or 500 hours of income in a day and do it from home. See, I get paid for when people tell a story. 30,000 people telling a story every day. 20,000 of them do it. 2,000 of them do it regularly. And the 2,000, the 1,500, there's really 20 who do it like professionally. There's 20 who are part of the elite team. They do it professionally, and it serves them well, serves me well, but they tell the story. They're the ones in the front of the room. How big the organization is really doesn't matter. It's about who tells the story. So literally, I got 30 people on my team. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir. That was beautifully done. Thank you.
You bet. Let's see here. Julia, you got your hand up.
Yes, I wanted to ask about the story as well. But I actually wanted some help also telling my story, because sometimes like I don't really know what to focus on, but there's like 5 or 6 experiences that like made an impact, I think, and that like led to why I'm doing what I do. So can I like
give me the bullet point. Give me the bullet point.
Yeah. So one of the big things is that I'm a refugee from Sudan. So I came to Belgium. I was brought up always in lack and always like being told, you know, like you can be happy that you got to come to Belgium, being an African, being a refugee, you know, like do good in school, work hard, and everything, you know, will be okay. So I always like
How
had
old were you?
32.
No, I mean when you were.
Oh, 2 or 3.
Okay.
And then another thing that impacted me was like I was brought up in lack, but then after I graduated in school, which I was never good at, actually I dated a really well-known soccer player, and everybody, you know, was like, oh, you made it and life is great, but I was never really happy because it was a golden cage. But what I did realize from that experience was like the importance of money. But we always have arguments because I never understood how he could have so much money and never help other people with it. So that was like something that clicked in my head, where I decided like, okay, I want to make a lot of money because his money is obviously not my money, but when I make money, I'm gonna, help other people with it. And then I got into modeling, which made me pretty good money. But I didn't feel like I was making an impact. So the money was there, but not the impact. Then I started doing personal training, which I love because it allowed me to help people with their goals and help people, become better versions of themselves. But that was kind of limited because I was working one-on-one with people and was, practically working all the time. So I didn't really get to enjoy what I did. And then I got into entrepreneurship, being a business owner, where I launched an app where I invested all of my savings and basically lost like 40,000 euros, but which was a great experience because it taught me a lot, but I never made any money from it because I didn't have mentorship. So I didn't really know what I was doing. And then I realized the importance of mentorship. And then I started looking into, having financial freedom, being financially independent. And then I came across a sponsored post on Instagram that talked about the business that I was doing right now, which I went to, that I didn't understand anything of. But the fact that they were talking about helping other people, being of service, achieving your dreams and everything, that's what got me convinced. And that's how I ended up in this business.
Cool. So you ready?
Yeah.
Say your last name.
Van den Wegen.
Okay, we're just going to go with Julia. Hi, everybody. My name is Julia. I'm from Brussels, but let me ask you this. How many of you lost everything twice? See, when I was 3 years old, I came here as a refugee from Sudan. My family lost everything. And so growing up, I was always told to hold on to everything, to make sure that you didn't give anything away. And sometimes that even meant ideas or even friendship or relationships. I grew up, as you can tell, if you've happened to taken a look at me, I did get into modeling, right? And modeling served me well. But prior to that, I was fortunate enough to date let me just put it this way, to date a celebrity. And the celebrity was did very well and created a lot of money. But one of the things that having been raised a refugee was there was always this desire in me to give back. And one of the things I learned is that he never wanted to give back. And that never really sat well with me. It's why we're not, I take it you're not together today. Is that correct, Julia?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's probably one of the reasons why we're not together today. So I've always been this entrepreneur. I was taught that, right, to take care of yourself, because when you lose everything at 3 years old, you want to make sure you don't lose it again. Well, remember I said I've lost everything twice. I went out and I created a technology, I created an app, and I lost everything again. But I didn't give up. And so what I realized is that through modeling, where I got to become, quote, famous, but I wasn't making the impact. I said, there's got to be a better way. So I saw a post on Instagram, I saw a post on social media, and I saw where people were actually doing good with their money. And that's what got me into the current opportunity that I'm in. Allows me to leverage technology and currencies as they move around the world. It allows me to create an income, allows me to share an opportunity with other people who want to take care of themselves, who maybe they feel as a refugee in their own world right now, in their own house right now, struggling to get by. I want to be able to help people have more, do more, be more. And that's why I got involved in my current opportunity.
Ooh, that was good. Yeah. I like to feel like a refugee in your own house. That's powerful.
Only you can say that. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Now I could, but it's like, but the story that runs at 14,000 words a minute is, what the hell does he know about being a refugee? Especially in today's society. Listen to me, especially in today's society. Could you imagine a white guy saying, oh, well, yeah, I don't know how many of you feel like a refugee. Raise your hand if you feel like a refugee. Going, what the hell do you know about being a refugee? Right? So, again, When you tell people you're a refugee and you've lost everything twice, your beauty becomes more beautiful, because now it's not, well, she's just, of course she married a celebrity. Look at her. She's hot. The guy could have been a, whatever. But now when you talk about the pain that you've been through, you get to have a conversation at a different level. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. I just have a last question, because
Sure.
The celebrity part is something that I actually want to leave out, because it's not something that I want to include, but it is something though that a lot of people know me as, and that's what I want to like.
So
set
you
the record
say, listen,
straight.
I was fortunate enough to marry a celebrity. I don't know how many of you watch celebrity relationships go sideways. Ours did. You got to tell them, control the story. That's something you need to control the story on. Because if you don't control it, it'll be controlled for you.
Gotcha.
One of the biggest things is that we had tons of money, but I never saw him give it away.
Mm-hmm.
And as a refugee, that always just, it never really sat well with me. So I said, I got to create my own money. I got into modeling. I've been able to do some things at a very small scale that I love to do. But now I found a way to and you talk about the opportunity.
Perfect. Thank you, Sean.
There you go, my love.
Thank you.
Corinne! Where's that beautiful voice?
Okay. Hi, y'all.
Did you just say hi, y'all?
Hi.
No, it's good. Hi, y'all's good.
Can you start the timer, Sean?
Hold one moment, please. Reset. Let me know when you're ready. Your first word will start the clock.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Corinne. I am from San Diego, California. Recently graduated from the University of San Diego, California, with $60,000 in debt. Not knowing where to go, not knowing which way is up, I sat down one day and I asked, how can I survive? How can I live? How can I do the things that I want to do? Not knowing where the answer was going to come from, not knowing where the answer was going to come from or where to go from there, I sat and fell asleep. The next morning, I got a phone call to go ahead and continue to take a walk. I took that walk and ended up 2 years later, after 2 religions, an abortion, addictions, and many other healing modalities later, I ended up with the answer. Ladies and gentlemen, I come to you asking, what are the questions that you're asking today? What are the questions that are asking you towards to move your future? Tony Robbins says, your life is determined by the questions that you ask yourself. Are you allowing the answer to come to you? And what is the question that you're looking for? And what are you looking for? Ladies and gentlemen, after these 2 years, I have come with the answer of working with people, knowing that I love people, knowing that I need my community and my community needs me. So ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to join my community. Join me in growing, join me in the rising, and join me on my walk of the journey of my life as we continue to grow upward and onwards and towards the person we are supposed to be. Thank you.
How you feel?
Nervous, shaky, but I got it out. It can get better, but I got some of it out.
Well, yeah, you hit a couple of landmines there along the way.
Definitely.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I know, and I was gonna say it so much more smoothly, I was gonna be like.
Well, but listen, this is so everyone be aware. This is what's called neuroplasticity. This is the brain rewiring itself. There's a difference between saying it in your head and actually creating the neural pathways to get it out into a sentence and into a story. And Corinne, what was coming out of your mouth was after you had already said about 300 different versions of it between the words.
Wow.
That's called neuroplasticity. This is you rewiring your brain. This is why the brain looks for two things. One, will it kill me? And part of the reason that you hesitate and everything else, and all of the words were running, the next thing that was going on in your brain was because this could have killed you. Could have killed your ego, could have killed your story, could have killed something, but the brain's going, whoo, right? Now, it didn't sound as nervous to us as it did to you. That I promise you. But you said something in there that I think is pretty amazing. I don't know that most people know that or ever heard of it before, because I hadn't. It's not a topic most people want to touch on, but the abortion. How many of you learned that today? How many of you instantly and just absolutely fell in love at a whole nother level with Corinne? So you see what happens when we tell just one, that's one word. How do you feel having said that?
I feel almost like unstoppable. Like that's my biggest thing. And if I say it out loud, there's no one else can hold me on it, you know?
Listen, yeah, I mean, that was a secret that only you knew. In this audience, only you knew it. Now that we know it, it's like, okay. Part of it is, okay, so what do we say to Corinne now? Well, you say the same damn thing you said to me yesterday when you didn't know, you jackass. Just talk to me the same way. I just told you more of my story.
Oh.
It's liberating, isn't it?
It is. It really is. And that it was part of the journey.
Well, I don't know that I don't know for anybody it wouldn't be part of their journey. But most, listen, I don't know if she's still on here. Let me see if she's still on here. Heather Love's story, in prison for 3 years, in a Colombian prison.
I'm here.
Yeah, there she is. So when she comes out and she tells that story, now listen, she told that story, she started telling that story a year ago now. We started having that conversation. In the last 2 months, she's got back to her rank she had, and she's jumped another rank. Well, is it because she told her story? She hadn't been able to do it in 4 years, not telling her story. Do you know what the freedom that happens? Listen, nobody even has to pay attention to your story. It's you. It's your energy. It's your focus. It's your clarity. It's your understanding. It's your secret sauce. And when you live from your secret sauce, it doesn't matter your story. Everybody just wants a little bit of your secret sauce. Listen, I'm never going to go out and have an abortion. Right? But I fall more in love with you, understanding that. I can't even begin to imagine what that is like.
Yeah.
Right? The 180 hours around that, the before and the after, right? You're reliving it all right now. I understand it.
Yeah.
My point is this. You just now gave everybody another reason to fall in love with you, to pay you honor, to pay you respect. They may agree or not disagree. That's called your vibe will create your tribe. You just found a way for us to be more part of your tribe. And I'll run around, I'll put a feather in my hat and go, ooh, whatever it is, whatever you need me to do, I'm part of your tribe. You get it?
Yeah, I do get it.
Because now I have another reason to fight for you. I have another reason to stay up another 5 hours to figure out, how do I make sure Corinne's story gets told? How do I give her the method? See, if we weren't doing these calls this morning, you wouldn't have been able to tell that story. You know how long that story might have stayed quiet and locked up inside of you? Listen, that cat's out of the bag, dear. Now, it may never be told ever again, but the fact is that it was told here, gave you freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact that I know that I'm still loved no matter what, like.
Okay, so by show of L or NL, no love, or L for love, how many of you no love, less love Corinne, or how many of you love Corinne more? NL if you don't love her anymore, L if you love her more. You get it?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Your sin is not my sin.
No.
Your pain is not my pain, but it gives me a reason to fall more in love with your pain. Gives me a reason to understand you more. Look at the smile. The smile is even bigger. I don't know how it got bigger or more beautiful. But your dimples, your cheeks are beautiful, more beautiful. They're more full. Your eyes are clearer. There's a relief. You look taller. Did you just grow? I'd measure yourself. You look taller. It looks like a big weight was taken off of you.
I didn't even think it was that. It was still weighing on me, you know? It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Welcome to the secret sauce. Part of our secret sauce isn't adding more shit to it. It's about getting all of the ingredients out of it that makes it taste like blah. I can't blah. What is that? What is that? It's cardboard? What is that? Phony? What is that? There you go.
Okay.
RBP, we've got that call here in just a few minutes. Wrap it up for us, young lady. Oh yeah, great, sure.
Oh, actually, I have thoroughly listened and enjoyed this. Part of my joy might be a little mean because I went through all this with Sean, and I have gone through the whole story bit and sounding like I sounded and all this kind of, so I chuckled a little bit, but then I thought, this is stuff that most of your people that you're in business with won't do with you. And a lot of the reason they won't do it with you is because they don't know how.
Well, okay, so let's just touch on that topic. So I get to blow my own horn. How many of you have been in network marketing for more than a week and you've never heard this conversation like this in your own company? This is why it's so critical. Nobody wants to talk about this because they want you to sell their product and learn the comp plan and go do this. This is about you. When you tell your story, it doesn't matter your company. I want you to build your brand right now, today, in this society, in this moment in time. Nobody cares what company you're with. They need to know about you. They need to know about who you are and who they are locking arms with. They don't care the company. They really don't. I don't care who delivers my Amazon package. I ordered from Amazon. I hope the guy is nice. I hope the gal is nice. I don't even care if it's a UPS, a Prime truck, or the rental truck they use. Who are they getting in business with? And that's why they need to know you. How many of you, if you had a chance between a beautiful young girl who told their story that looks like Corinne, or her twin who mentioned that in passing, like in a sentence, but some of the challenges that I had growing up was an abortion younger on and dealing with that. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm over here. I'm focused over here. So your story is what separates you. You have to get above the noise. You got to get outside of all of the BS that's out there, the belief system and the other stuff, the BS. And when you tell just that little, I mean, how many of you really your head snapped and you looked at the camera when she said that word? Right? How many of you know that Rhonda has one kidney? Some of you know, some of you don't. Some of you do. But that makes her special, isn't it? That's why she can't say, hi, how are you? She has to keep it short. Hi, y'all. Go ahead, Rhonda. I'll let you continue.
I got to stop you. I need to be able to mute you when I need to mute you. So, since I got Sean a little fired up on that one, the reason you don't hear someone do this kind of coaching is because they've never been coached. And one of the reasons network marketing is sleazy sounding and feeling is because the people that succeed 9 times out of 10, and I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, I'm just saying typically money reveals who they really are, and they're just a really good sleazy salesperson. And you come in going, but there's an opportunity here to create a passive income, a residual income. It's not really passive because it's a lot of work, simple, but a lot of work. You go, I know I can do this. I just don't want to do it like that. But the only person you got training you is that. And you're like, golly. And then you finally find someone like this. And you start hearing new things. And you begin to hear people like Gigi said, your story doesn't matter until you make it. That's a bunch of bull crap. You already made it. You're alive. You're here. You're breathing. You're taking up oxygen and giving out more joy and more love. You made it. The definition of you made it is what is the problem. People want to say money is you made it. Remember, Larry Thompson said, money only reveals who you really are. That's why a lot of the times when you see people get money, you go, oh my gosh. And then why is it, we knew Michael Jordan, we know him. He's this amazing, best basketball player to ever live. But when we really got invested in his stories, when we found out he didn't even get chosen on his freshman basketball team. They didn't even want him to play. Why would that be so important? Because it's relatable. Because I could be that person. I could be the other Corinne. That could be my story. And then I made a connection. I don't care if she has 2 pennies to rub together. Doesn't matter. If she made that connection with me, where's my heart going to go? To Corinne. Who am I going to follow? Corinne. It's these little pieces that have nothing to do with money that make us who we are. And I did this just the other day. I overlooked it. Sean started typing some things out for me. And I'm like, why are you typing that? Why are you telling that story? You don't need to tell that story. I don't want that story. That's not a big deal. And Sean's like, and he, in typical fashion, ignores me and keeps doing what he wants to do because he'll do that to me. And not now that I'm sitting here listening to y'all's stories, I'm going, oh my gosh. It's the same thing with actors and actresses. We see them. They're great. They're amazing. We follow them because they're one of our favorite movies and whatever. But when we see them out, and this is why magazines sell like crazy, when we see them out and they're buying apples, we're like, oh my gosh, I buy the same apples that they do. That's so freaking cool. We eat the same food. Wow. We love the little things that we can relate to because that gives us a glimmer of hope that we can do what they did. And it might be some crazy thing like an apple. It might be that somebody else was bullied for having curly hair as a little boy in school. Those are the little things that stick out. I don't give a rat's behind how much money you own and how much money you have and what your next paycheck is going to look like. If you're a jackass, I don't care. But if you're stop it, Sean, you got me worked up on this. But if you're somebody whose heart is in it to go serve others like Julia, and Julia let some jackwagon go that had money because he wouldn't give it away because he's the stingy son of a gun, I'm following Julia. I'm going at that's everybody that's on this call has that heart. And you won't hear this in your other trainings because their heart, 9 times out of 10, is not where it needs to be. And what comes quick and easy will leave quick and easy. And you watch that and you'll see a phenomenon of all these people. They rise up and then it goes. And they're like, oh, if I did it once, I can do it again. Yeah, you can. And it'll leave again, just as quick as it came. And I'll watch you come and go and come and go and come and go. I find the people that come up and stay. Like a Sean, like an Angel Fletcher, like a Ryan Higgins. I find them and then I hang on every word. And what's crazy is every word that comes out of their mouth is worth hanging on because it's not empty of love and hope. It is full of love and hope. And that's a flag there when you're doing these stories. Hear what makes you go, oh, I don't know if I can say that. That's that feeling you're going to give someone else when you do. When it comes off easy and it rolls right out of your mouth, most of the time it's going to go right past their ears. But when it still makes you have that feeling of, man, if I tell that, they're going to know something about me, that's kind of a hot button, tell it. Because it's going to rise them up to go, oh my gosh, that's what happened to them. Jeremy felt like he wanted to commit suicide in college. Man, I did too. And you're going to have a connection. The world lacks connection. People are looking for a place to arrive and be loved and be connected, to be entertained, but it to be real and solid as they're there. You have the potential. I haven't seen the class for today in the secret sauce. I can only imagine, because I know how Sean works with me on my story. I know how he works with everybody on his team with their stories. If you ask him, he's not like a dictator and you can't talk unless you talk like this, because we got some of them. If you ask him, he'll teach you. But there is a foundation, what you were like before, what it felt like during, and what it feels like now. And that's all you need. That's it. And you'll drive people to begging to be with you, or you'll drive people to get messages. You'll get messages like, I don't know what you do, but you make me happy. I got a call the other day. I don't know what you do. I'm just going to do it because every time I see you, you're nice. And when I call you or text you, you're nice to me. And most people aren't.
Well, I wish I could say that.
Well, you don't get to, so stop. So I'm listening to y'all, and I now I see y'all are enlightening me as to why network marketing has the feel that it does, because there's less of this and more of the ugh. And this is a movement. You're part of a movement to take this into what it is designed to be, which is capturing hearts and souls and giving them a chance to thrive and to their heart beat again, and them to actually use oxygen in a positive way. So now you're commissioned and you're held responsible and accountable for the knowledge you've gained on this call and what you will gain in the secret sauce. Now, this is kind of the sucky part and the really good part. Now you can be held accountable to rise to this and to speak this and to be hope dealers throughout the universe. So you encouraged me. I don't know if y'all can tell, but I know I was walking and moving. That's usually when I got to just process. Y'all got me stirred up and fired up. And now I'm like, okay, I need to just be smart and listen to Sean like I tell everybody else, and say the stories that I need to say and share them with y'all. So yeah, use hope dealers. Hope dealers, use that as much as you possibly can. And more importantly than just using those words, be that and get somebody to call you that. Maybe that's what your post is today. You don't use the word hope dealer, but you do a post or a video to the point where someone goes, my gosh, it's like you gave me a whole injection of hope. And see if you can get called the names you wish to be, that you're striving to be. And that one hit hard for me. So I'll be curious to see. And if you think you've got one of those posts, tag me in it. I want to see how the responses come through in the comments. Okay, I love y'all. And remember, because I'm working on mine, remember, the mess around you is proof of your existence. And that's what we're here for. I love y'all. Thanks.
This is the girl that wouldn't say it if she had a mouthful of it a year ago. So there you go, folks. And so I'm going to say, Marivic, if you come tomorrow, we'll do story again tomorrow. So we'll go through tomorrow. Come on in, raise your hand first, and we'll do stories tomorrow, and I'll walk you through stories in the morning tomorrow as well. So there you go, because this is important. I want to see if I can help you. And so we'll do the 90 seconds. We'll go through it. And so come back tomorrow. We'll do that. And we'll go from there. I'm Sean Murphy, your head misfit. I'll see y'all where?
The next
event.
At the next event.
I love you.
I'll send some
Love you
love.
guys. Have an amazing day.
Bye.
Have a great
great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Love y'all. Have a wonderful day.
Go Hope
Bye.
Dealers.
There you go.
Hope
Good
dealers.
night. Have a good day. Love you all.
Bye for now, everybody.
Bye, y'all.